something very curious happening right now, and most people haven't noticed it yet. The ones who have awakened, the ones who have begun to see through the game, are simply vanishing. Not with drama, not with announcements, not with manifestos. They are just quietly stepping back, fading into the edges, choosing silence over the noise. And if you have felt this pull yourself, if you have been wondering why you can no longer stand the conversations, the parties, the performances, then what I am about to tell you may bring you great relief. Because this withdrawal is not a sickness. It is not antisocial behavior. It is actually the most natural thing in the world when someone wakes up. Let me explain what I mean by waking up. I am not talking about reading a few books on philosophy or having a nice idea about oneness. I am talking about that moment when the veil drops and you see that almost everything people are doing is a kind of sleepwalking. They are playing roles, repeating lines, moving through routines, all while completely unaware that they are asleep. Now, when you're asleep yourself, this is no problem. You fit right in. You can have conversations about nothing and feel perfectly fine. You can worry about what other people think and believe that matters. You can chase after things that have no real substance and call it success. But the moment you wake up, the moment you really see what is happening, everything changes. Suddenly you are like a person who has walked out of a movie theater into the bright daylight. And when you try to go back into the theater, when you try to sit down and watch the flickering images on the screen again, you cannot do it. Because you know it is just light and shadow. You know it is not real. This is what is happening to awakening people right now. They are finding that they can no longer participate in the collective dream. Not because they are superior or enlightened or better than anyone else, but because their nervous system simply cannot tolerate it anymore. You see, society operates on a kind of agreement. An agreement to pretend. To pretend that the roles we play are who we really are. To pretend that the opinions we hold are actually ours and not something we absorbed from the atmosphere. To pretend that all this urgency and seriousness and striving is leading somewhere important. And everyone must participate in this pretending for it to work. It is like a play where all the actors must stay in character. But when someone wakes up, they break character. They forget their lines. They start looking directly at the audience. And this makes everyone very uncomfortable. Because the awakened person can see what is really going on. They can see the fear beneath the confidence. They can see the emptiness beneath the busyness. They can see that most of what people are fighting about has nothing to do with what they think they are fighting about. When someone points at another group and says, those people are the problem, the awakened person sees that this is just a way of avoiding one's own darkness. When someone posts their outrage on the public square, the awakened person sees that this is just unconscious material seeking a target. When society divides itself into us and them, the awakened person sees that both sides are shadows boxing with each other. And once you see this, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to taking it all seriously. You cannot participate in the blame and the judgment and the righteous anger because you understand that it is all just one big projection, one massive game of pointing at others to avoid looking at ourselves. So what does the awakened person do? They withdraw. Not because they hate people, but because staying in the game requires them to betray what they have seen. Every conversation requires them to pretend they do not see what they see. Every social gathering requires them to perform a version of themselves that no longer exists. Every interaction asks them to be less than they have become. And eventually the soul says, enough. Stop pretending. Stop performing. Stop translating your depth into shallow terms, just to maintain belonging. Go where you can breathe. Now, I want to be very clear about something. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is not running away from responsibility. This is not some kind of escapism where you go hide in a cave because life is too hard. No, this is something else entirely. This is the recognition that staying in unconscious environments actually damages consciousness. It is like asking a plant to grow in the dark. It can survive for a while, but eventually it will wither. The awakened person discovers that being around unconsciousness is not just uncomfortable. It is depleting. Every Every time you are surrounded by people who are asleep, you have to work very hard to maintain your own wakefulness. You have to constantly filter out the projections. You have to hold your center while chaos swirls around you. You have to remain clear while everyone else is foggy. And this takes tremendous energy.
Yes.
Invisible energy.
Yes. Like I said, it's like I always say, um, it takes all my energy, my meditation, just to really, really to get through sometimes. Like real shit. Alan Watts ain't lying. When you're surrounded by a whole bunch of bullshit, shit, you gotta keep your composure, tone your motherfucking intelligence down to speak on A level and shit. Like I remember going through that shit. But when you find yourself and you true to yourself, all the game is over. And then you gotta get the fuck away because being around a whole bunch of bullshit, it depletes you of your fucking energy. Real shit. And this is what Alan Watts was talking about. And also, you get the fuck away from society. Just so you can be at motherfucking peace within self.
That no one sees or appreciates. You're doing psychological work that others are not even aware needs to be done. And after a while, you realize that you're spending all your energy just trying to stay conscious in environments that are actively pulling you back to sleep. So you make a choice. You choose consciousness over belonging. You choose truth over acceptance. You choose your own inner clarity over the approval of people who cannot see what you see. And this...
Exactly. I choose myself. Motherfucker go see it, fuck it. They ain't trying to. Or they probably never will. It is what it is. You gotta unlock yourself, do that inner work, do that shadow work. Fuck what everybody else say.
This is when the disappearing begins. First, you leave social media because you realize it is a machine designed to keep people unconscious. Every scroll is an invitation to judgment, comparison, outrage, distraction. For someone who is awakened, it feels like swimming in sewage, so you simply stop. You delete the applications, you stop checking, and suddenly you have hours of life returned to you. Then you start leaving social circles. Not with anger or announcements, you just stop showing up. Because you realize that most social gatherings are performances. People performing their success, their happiness, their opinions. And you can no longer perform. Your authentic self has emerged and it has no interest in pretending.
Yeah. Like when you stop going to family gatherings, you stop seeing the fake bullshit, or you stop going to other bullshit because you see the fakeness and everything. Or the fakeness or all the other bullshit, that bring down your energy. It's like no more playing the game, no more putting on the role, no more fake smiles, no more going to, and you gotta see everybody else fake smile and shit. Or you can see everybody real true inner self that they can't see within themselves, or they know they trying to hide. Shit crazy. When you finally wake up and feel the energy or see the shit that's for you for what it is. It's a motherfucker. I've been saying that shit since the age of 5.
Then you leave certain relationships. Not because you stop caring about people, but because some relationships were built on who you used to be, on the sleeping version of yourself. And now that you have awakened, there is no common ground anymore. You're speaking different languages. You are living in different worlds. Then you leave your career. This is often the most difficult one because society has convinced us that our work is our identity. But the awakened person can no longer perform the role that their job requires. They can no longer pretend to care about things that do not matter. They can no longer participate in systems they see through. And so they leave, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but they leave. Because staying would mean dying in a different way. It would mean killing the consciousness they have worked so hard to develop. Now let me tell you what happens in this withdrawal, because it is not what most people think. Most people imagine that disappearing from society means becoming isolated, depressed.
Yep. Isolated, depressed. People think as soon as you do that, you go isolated and depressed. But nope, that's not always the case.
lonely. But for the awakened person, the opposite happens. In solitude, they finally stop being lonely. You see, there is a difference between...
I felt good. And I finally embraced being on my own and tapping into my inner self. That shit felt wonderful. Felt great.
Loneliness and aloneness. Loneliness is what you feel when you are surrounded by people who do not see you. Aloneness is what you feel when you are finally free to be yourself. When the awakened person withdraws, they discover something extraordinary. They discover that they were never really with other people, even when they were physically surrounded. Because real connection requires consciousness meeting consciousness. And when you are awake in a room full of sleeping people, there is no one to meet. But in solitude, in that quiet space, away from the noise and the performance and the projection, you meet yourself. Really meet yourself. Not the version you have been performing, not the role you have been playing, but the actual living, breathing consciousness that you are. And this is not lonely. This is coming home. In this space, you can finally hear your own thoughts without the constant interference of other people's opinions. You can finally feel your own feelings without absorbing everyone else's emotions. You can finally discover what you actually want, what you actually believe, who you actually are. This is what I call the hermit phase. And it is absolutely necessary for anyone who is awakening. You cannot transform while maintaining all your old connections and commitments. You cannot become a butterfly while still living as a caterpillar. There must be a withdrawal, a cocooning, a time of deep internal work. And during this time, the awakened person is not escaping. They are integrating. They are processing all the unconsciousness they have absorbed over the years. They are healing the wounds that came from pretending to be someone they were not. They are developing the strength to stand in their truth, even when everyone around them is still asleep. This is hard work, much harder than staying asleep. Because when you are awake, you can no longer blame others for your suffering. You can no longer project your darkness onto convenient targets. You can no longer avoid your own depths by staying busy and distracted. You must face everything. All the fear, all the pain, all the ugliness that you have been avoiding. And you must do this alone because no one else can do it for you. But here is the beautiful thing. Once you have done this work, once you have integrated your shadow and found your authentic self, you are no longer dependent on others for your sense of reality. You are no longer looking for approval or validation or belonging. You have found something much more valuable. You have found yourself. And from this place, if you choose to return to society, you return differently. Not to participate in the unconsciousness, but to offer something else, a different frequency, a different possibility. You become what I call a border dweller, someone who lives on the edge between the sleeping world and the awakened world. You are present, but not absorbed, available but not dependent, engaged but not entangled. You might work with individuals who are beginning to wake up. You might create art that speaks to the depths. You might write words that serve as maps for other disappearing souls. You might simply live your life in such an authentic way that others begin to wonder if there is another way to be. But you never return to the mainstream. You cannot. Because once you have tasted consciousness, you cannot go back to sleep. Once you have touched your authentic self, you cannot go back to performing a role. Once you have seen through the game, you cannot pretend it is real. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Is this not selfish? Should we not stay engaged and try to help wake others up? Should we not work to change the system from within? And here is what I want to say to that. You cannot give what you do not have. If you have not fully awakened yourself, if you have not done your own inner work, if you have not integrated your own shadow, then you have nothing real to offer others. You will just be one more sleeping person trying to wake up other sleeping people. You will just be projecting your own unconsciousness while claiming to be enlightened. You will just be spreading more confusion while thinking you are bringing clarity. No, the most loving thing you can do is to awaken fully yourself, to do the deep work of integration, to become genuinely conscious. And then from that place of real awakening, You can be available to others who are ready, but understand this. Most people are not ready. Most people do not want to wake up. They want to keep dreaming their dreams, playing their games, performing their roles. And that is perfectly fine. That is their right. Your job is not to wake them up. Your job is to wake up yourself. And then to be available quietly, gently, without force or evangelism, for those who are beginning to stir in their sleep. This is why the awakened are disappearing. They are going where they can be real, where they can breathe, where they can continue developing their consciousness without constantly having to defend it or explain it or dim it to make others comfortable. They are finding each other in small circles, in quiet spaces, on the margins. They are creating little pockets of consciousness in a sea of sleep. They are building alternative ways of living that do not require them to betray themselves. And this is not abandonment. This is actually the most responsible thing they can do, because the collective does not need more people participating in its unconsciousness. It needs people who have done the hard work of waking up. It needs living examples of another way to be. It needs individuals who have found their authentic selves. So if you are feeling the pull to disappear, if you are finding it harder and harder to participate in normal society, if you are losing interest in the games and the performances and the noise, then listen to that pull. It is your soul calling you home. It is your consciousness asking for the space it needs to fully emerge. Do not fight it. Do not feel guilty about it. Do not try to force yourself to stay engaged with things that drain you. Give yourself permission to withdraw. Give yourself permission to be alone. Give yourself permission to disappear for a while. This is not permanent. You will return when you are ready. But you will return as someone different, someone whole, someone authentic, someone who can offer real consciousness rather than just more unconscious performance. And in the meantime, use your solitude well. Do the inner work. Integrate your shadow. Find your authentic self. Develop your consciousness. Because this is what the world actually needs. Not more people pretending to be awake, but people who have genuinely awakened. The spiritually awake are disappearing because they must. Because consciousness cannot develop in unconscious environments. Because authenticity cannot emerge while performing a role. Because truth cannot be found while participating in collective lies. So let them go. Or rather, if you are one of them, let yourself go. Withdraw without guilt. Disappear without apology. Be alone without loneliness. And trust that you are following an ancient pattern, a necessary pattern, the pattern that every awakening person must follow. The caterpillar must dissolve in the cocoon before it can become the butterfly. The seed must break apart in the dark soil before it can become the tree. The awakened person must withdraw from society before they can return with something real to offer. This is not the end. This is the beginning of genuine consciousness in a world that desperately needs it. But that consciousness must be developed in solitude before it can be shared in community. So disappear if you must. And know that in your disappearing, you are actually preparing something. Something the sleeping world cannot yet see. Something it will need when it begins to wake up. You are not abandoning anyone. You are pioneering. You arguing ahead to prepare the way. You are becoming what others will eventually need you to be. And that is the most loving thing you can possibly do. Now, there's something rather amusing about this whole spiritual business. People come to me and they say, Alan, I've been meditating. I've been reading all the right books. I've had this extraordinary experience of oneness with everything. And then almost in the same breath, they add, but why am I so terribly alone? Why can't I find someone to love? And I look at them and I want to laugh. Not because I'm mocking their pain, you understand, but because they don't see the cosmic joke they've walked into. They've awakened to the fact that they are the entire universe expressing itself, and now they're complaining that they can't find a date on Saturday night. It's like a wave suddenly realizing it's the ocean, and then worrying that it can't find another wave to go steady with. But let me tell you something. This loneliness, this sense of standing apart from the ordinary games of romance, is not a bug in the system. It's a feature. And once you understand why, you'll see that what looks like a problem is actually the opening of a door to something far more interesting than anything you left behind. So let's talk about love. Real love. and why those who wake up find the old game utterly impossible to play. The first thing you must understand is that what most people call love is nothing of the sort. It's a transaction, a barter system. Two hungry ghosts making arrangements in the dark. You see, we've all been taught a very peculiar story about love. We're taught that somewhere out there is the other half of ourselves, that we are incomplete, broken, insufficient. And if we could just find that special someone, that missing piece, we would finally be whole. What a marvelous piece of fiction that is. And like all good fiction, millions believe it without question. So we go through life shopping for completion. We dress ourselves up, we learn the right words to say, we practice our smiles in the mirror. And all the while we're terrified, absolutely terrified, that no one will choose us, that we'll be left on the shelf like unwanted merchandise. So this is what passes for romance in our world. Two people, each convinced of their own incompleteness, each desperately hoping the other will fill the void. And for a while, it works. The intoxication of it, the fever, the sleepless nights, the constant thinking about the other person. We call this falling in love. But notice the word, falling. As if love were a pit you stumble into, as if it was something that happens to you rather than something you do. And what fuels this falling? Not love, my friends. Not love at all. But need, raw, desperate need. The need to escape from the horror of being alone with ourselves. The need to prove that we matter, that we exist, that someone finds us worthy of attention. It's all very romantic on the surface. The love letters, the declarations, the dramatic gestures. But underneath, it's just two people using each other as life preservers in what they imagine to be a drowning. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you awaken even just a little bit, you begin to see through this game. You start to notice that what you called love was mostly fear wearing a prettier costume. You see how much of your passion was really just anxiety about being alone. How much of your devotion was really just bargaining. I'll be what you want if you'll be what I want. I'll soothe your terror if you'll soothe mine. And once you see this, once you really see it, you can't unsee it. It's like watching a magic trick after someone has explained how it's done. Oh, you can still appreciate the skill involved. You can admire the performance, but you're no longer fooled by it. The rabbit was in the hat all along. This is why the awakened find it so difficult to fall in love in the conventional way. Not because they've become cold or unfeeling, quite the opposite, but because they can no longer participate in the mutual hypnosis that passes for romance. They've seen the wires holding up the stage. They know the love songs are about neediness dressed up in moonlight. They recognize the whole drama for what it is, a beautiful, tragic game that two incomplete people play to avoid facing their own emptiness. But here's the thing. When you wake up, you discover something extraordinary. You're not empty at all. That void you were so afraid of, that terrible loneliness you were trying to escape, it was never real. It was a story you told yourself. A story so convincing that you organized your entire life around avoiding it. The truth is, you are not half a person waiting to be completed. You are not a fragment of something that broke apart at birth. You are the whole thing. You are the universe experiencing itself through this particular pattern called you. You are as complete right now as you will ever be. The idea that you need someone else to make you whole is like a wave, thinking it needs another wave to become water. It's already water. It was always water. And when you really understand this, when you feel it in your bones, something shifts. The desperate hunger that drove you toward others begins to quiet down. You stop scanning every room for potential saviors. You stop measuring every interaction by whether it might lead to the completion you seek. Because you're not seeking completion anymore, you're already complete. Now this sounds wonderful in theory, and in many ways it is. There's a tremendous freedom in not needing others to validate your existence. But there's also a price. And the price is this. You can no longer play the old game. You can no longer pretend that the theatrical performances of conventional romance are real. You can't fake being swept away when you see too clearly how the sweeping is done. This is where the loneliness comes in. Not the loneliness of being physically alone. That's easy. You can sit by yourself for hours and feel perfectly content. No, this is a different kind of loneliness. It's the loneliness of seeing through a game that everyone else is still playing. It's like being the only adult at a children's party. The children are having a wonderful time. They're completely absorbed in their games. But you can't join them. Not because you don't want to, but because you can't make yourself believe the games are real anymore. You meet someone. They're attractive. They're interesting. They seem to like you. And in the old days, this is where the story would begin. The story of pursuit and conquest, of longing and fulfillment, of two people finding each other in the vastness of the world. But now you see the story before it even starts. You see how it will unfold. The initial intoxication, the gradual revelation of flaws, the negotiation of needs, the slow recognition that neither of you can give the other what they're really looking for, because what they're looking for doesn't exist outside themselves. And so you hesitate, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You cannot walk into a trap when you see it so plainly. You cannot drink the poison when you know what's in the cup. And this hesitation, this inability to throw yourself into the old drama, it sets you apart. Others sense it. They feel that you're not playing by the usual rules, and it makes them uncomfortable, or it makes them curious, but either way, it creates distance. Here's what nobody tells you about awakening. It raises the standard. Before, you might have been content with someone who made you laugh, someone who found you attractive, someone who filled the evenings with conversation. But now, that's not enough.
Hey,
you're looking for something else, something that has no name in the usual vocabulary of romance. You're looking for someone who has also seen through the game, someone who knows they are already.
Yep. Someone is already whole. This is what I say. Find someone that's just like you. Hey, baby. Hey, Crystal. I thought you was probably out and about driving, doing your thing. I left a message on the Discord. I was like, I forgot what I said. But you gotta check your Discord. But yeah, but I didn't know I was gonna go live. But I was listening to Alan Watts. I was like, you know what, let me play this. Let me play these two. I'm on the second video now. What up, dude? Well, like, this the last video, then I was gonna get up out of here. I might play one more. But I just wanted to, just get this out the way.
Oh, someone who isn't trying to use you as a missing piece in their puzzle. Because only then can you meet each other as you actually are, not as fantasies or saviors or solutions to loneliness, but as two expressions of the same reality, two waves that have both realized their ocean. And here's the difficulty. Such people are rare, extraordinarily rare. Most people are still caught in the old...
And that's why when you find it, you hold on to it. Shit, I'm holding on like a motherfucker. Oh, that's what's up. I forgot you be building shit too. That's what's up.
Story. They're still looking for their other half. They're still trying to build their identity through relationships. They're still playing the game with deadly seriousness. And you can't blame them for this. You played it too, until you didn't, until you saw through it. But the fact remains, the field has narrowed considerably. Where once there were many possibilities, now there are few. Where once you might have fallen in love with someone's smile, or their wit, or their way of moving through the world, now you need something more. You need them to be awake, or at least awakening. You need them to know what you know, to see what you see. And that severely limits the options. This is why so many spiritually awake people find themselves alone. Not because they can't love, but because they can't love in the old way anymore. They've outgrown it. Like a child who has learned to read and can no longer find satisfaction in picture books. The old stories don't work anymore. They need something more substantial, something real. And sometimes, often actually, that something real doesn't appear. Years go by, you meet people, you have conversations, you feel connections, but none of them go deep enough. None of them touch the place where you actually live. And so you remain alone, not in bitterness, not in despair, but in a kind of patient waiting, waiting for someone who speaks your language, who breathes the same air, who has traveled to the same country you have and knows its geography. There's a certain dignity in this aloneness, a kind of integrity. You're not willing to settle for less than truth. You're not willing to go back to sleep just because sleeping is more comfortable. You'd rather stand in clarity, even if it means standing alone, than kneel in illusion with company. But let's be honest, it's not always easy. There are nights when the silence feels heavy, when you wonder if you've made a terrible mistake. When you look at people in their ordinary relationships, with all their ordinary dramas and compromises, and you think maybe that would be easier. Maybe you're asking too much. Maybe this clarity you've gained has cost you something precious. And you'd be right. It has cost you something. It's cost you the ability to be satisfied with illusion. It's cost you the option of using another person to avoid yourself. It's cost you the comfort of not knowing what you know. These are real costs. And sometimes they feel like too much to pay. But here's what you must understand. You can't go back, even if you wanted to. Even if you tried to play the old game, to pretend you don't see what you see. It wouldn't work. The awakening has happened. You've tasted something real. And once you've tasted the real thing, the counterfeit loses all its flavor. So what do? You wait. You live. You continue to grow and learn and experience the richness of existence. You don't close your heart. You don't become bitter or cynical. You simply recognize that love, real love, must come from a different place now. Not from need, but from fullness. Not from fear, but from freedom. Not from the desperate grasping of two incomplete people, but from the joyful meeting of two whole beings. And maybe it comes. Maybe one day you meet someone who has walked the same path, who carries the same quality of presence, who looks at you and sees not a solution to their loneliness, but a companion in the mystery. Someone who doesn't need you to complete them, because they're already complete. Someone who can love you not because they must, but because they choose to. Because the loving itself is the point, not what they get from it. When that happens, if it happens, it's nothing like the old falling in love. There's no fever, no obsession, no desperate clinging. Instead, there's a recognition, a meeting of equal. Two people who are already at peace with themselves, choosing to share that peace with each other. Not because they need to, but because they want to, because it's delightful, because it's an expression of the freedom they've each discovered within themselves. This kind of love doesn't bind, it doesn't possess, it doesn't make demands, it simply is. Like water flowing, like birds flying, like the sun shining. It's love without agenda, without negotiation, without the subtle bargaining that underlies so much of what passes for love in this world. But again, such love is rare, and there's no guarantee you'll find it. You might spend your whole life waiting. You might die having never met another awake being in the intimate way you long for. And you must make peace with that possibility. You must be willing to walk alone, if that's what clarity requires. Because the alternative is worse. The alternative is to go back to sleep, to stuff yourself back into the old costume and play the old part, to use someone or let someone use you in the mutual pretense that this will solve the problem of existence. And you can't do that anymore. The costume doesn't fit. The role doesn't convince. You've seen behind the curtain, and there's no putting the veil back up. So you carry this strange gift, this burden of clarity. You're awake in a world that's mostly sleeping. You see through games that everyone else takes seriously. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, you wish it were easier to find someone who understands. But you wouldn't trade it, because you've tasted freedom. And freedom, real freedom, is worth any price. The spiritually awake can't find love, not because love has abandoned them, but because they refuse to call anything less than truth by that name. They've stopped confusing need with love, hunger with passion, attraction with devotion. They've stopped playing the game where two people use each other as escapes from themselves. And in stopping, they've opened themselves to something far more real. Something that may never come, or that may come tomorrow, or that may already be here, in forms they haven't learned to recognize yet. But whatever happens, they know this: they are already whole, already complete, already free. And that knowledge, that certainty, is more valuable than all the counterfeit romances in the world. They would rather be alone in truth than coupled in illusion. They would rather wait a lifetime for something real than settle for something that merely fills the time. This is the price of awakening, and it is also its gift. You lose the ability to lose yourself in others, but you gain the ability to find yourself in everything. You lose the comfort of mutual neediness, but you gain the freedom of not needing at all. You lose the old story of romance, but you open yourself to the possibility of something so much greater. Love without conditions, love without demands, love that asks nothing and gives everything. Love that is not a feeling or an emotion, but a way of being in the world. And if you never find another person to share that with, well, you still have the love itself. Because it was never in the other person anyway. It was always in you, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be lived. Not as a transaction between two people, but as the ground of your very being. As what you are, not what you do. As the ocean, not the wave. This is why the spiritually awake can't find love in the usual way, because they've already found it in the most important way. They've found it in themselves. And nothing, no person, no relationship, no romance, however sweet, can compare to that discovery. Everything else is just play. Delightful perhaps, beautiful sometimes, but play nonetheless. And you can enjoy the play without mistaking it for the real thing, without betting your piece on its outcome, without forgetting who you are beneath all the costumes and roles. So yes, you're alone sometimes. Yes, the crowd has thinned out. Yes, it's harder to find someone who speaks your language. But you're also free in a way you never were before. Free to love without needing. Free to connect without clinging. Free to be yourself without apology or pretense. And that freedom, that vast, spacious freedom, is what you've been looking for all along. Not in another person, but in yourself, where it always was, where it always will be, waiting for you to come home.
Yep. We got one more. I gotta put it on my other phone though. I just hope it don't die.
The Bluetooth device is connected successfully.
All right, it's the last one.
Right now, as you listen to this, you are probably convinced that you are a separate person, sitting somewhere, having thoughts about what I am saying. This seems so obviously true that questioning it feels almost silly. After all, there you are, and here I am, two distinct beings having a conversation across space and time. But have you ever noticed what happens in those rare moments when this certainty suddenly cracks? Maybe you are walking in the woods, and suddenly the trees are not separate from you anymore. Maybe you are listening to music, and you disappear into the sound completely. Or perhaps you are simply washing dishes when everything becomes strangely unified, and for just an instant, there is no one washing anything. These moments terrify most people. Not because they are frightening in themselves, but because they threaten the most fundamental assumption we have about reality. They suggest that this person you take yourself to be might be something like a mirage. Beautiful, convincing, but ultimately a play of light and shadow. What we call a spiritual awakening is really just the moment when this mirage begins to shimmer and fade. You start to see through the elaborate game of pretending to be a separate self in a world of separate things. It is like waking up from a dream and realizing you were never really the character in the dream at all. Now, you might think this sounds wonderful, this waking up, and in a way it is. But here is what nobody tells you about spiritual awakening. It is not a pleasant, gradual transition from ignorance to wisdom. It is more like being in a house of cards when someone starts pulling out the bottom layer. Everything you thought you knew about yourself and your world begins to wobble and collapse. The people who survive this collapse and the people who do not have one crucial difference. But to understand what that difference is, we need to look at why the collapse happens in the first place. Because what is really dying in a spiritual awakening is not your true nature. What is dying is the story you have been telling yourself about who and what you are. And most people would rather die than let that story go. There is something peculiar about human beings that you will not find in cats or trees or mountains. We are the only creatures who spend most of our lives believing in a story about ourselves that is not actually happening. A cat does not think, I am Fluffy, a tabby cat with certain personality traits and a complicated relationship with my owner. A cat simply cats. But you and I, we have constructed elaborate narratives. I am John, a 42-year-old accountant who grew up in Ohio, has trouble with commitment, and really should exercise more. We walk around inside these stories like actors who have forgotten they are on stage. The story becomes so convincing that we think it is reality itself. This story is not wrong, exactly. It is just incomplete. It is like mistaking a map for the territory it describes. The map can be useful, even necessary, but it is not the actual landscape. When you have a spiritual awakening, you suddenly see the landscape itself, and you realize you have been living inside a map. Now, this would be fine if we held our stories lightly, like a loose garment we could put on or take off as needed. But we do not. We grip our personal story with desperate intensity. We defend it, improve it, worry about it, compare it to other people's stories. We have mistaken this story for our actual life. So when awakening begins to dissolve the boundaries of your story, when you start to see that this separate self is more like a convenient fiction, your mind goes into full alarm mode. Every psychological defense system you have developed over decades springs into action. Because from the story's point of view, awakening looks like death. And in a very real sense, it is death. The death of everything you thought you were. The death of your problems, your achievements, your personality, your past, your future. Not because these things literally disappear, but because you see they were never as real or as important as you believed. Most people cannot tolerate this kind of death. Even when they intellectually understand it might be liberation, they would rather return to the familiar prison of their story than face the vastness of what they actually are. And this is where the real trouble begins. Have you ever been on a boat in calm water when the fog suddenly lifts? One moment you are surrounded by a cozy, gray cocoon where everything feels close and manageable. The next moment you are staring at an endless expanse of ocean, and you realize how small your little vessel really is. That is what happens when spiritual awakening begins to strip away your familiar reference points. Your entire life, you have been navigating by landmarks that you thought were solid and permanent. Your name, your history, your relationships, your goals, your fears. These gave you a sense of location in the world. You knew where you were because you knew who you were. But awakening reveals that these landmarks are more like clouds than mountains. They shift and change and sometimes disappear entirely. This is profoundly disorienting. Imagine trying to find your way home and all the street signs keep changing.
One of these lunches has a peanut lover's favorites. The other has a sunflower butter you packed for your son. You do your best to help them avoid food allergens, but
and all the street signs.
It's not pre-recorded. I pre-record this.
Which
I
has
did this
spent
from YouTube.
decades organizing reality around the assumption of your separate existence, suddenly has no reliable way to navigate. The very ground of being that you took for granted turns out to be more like quicksand. Most people respond to this groundlessness by frantically trying to rebuild the landmarks as quickly as possible. They grab onto new spiritual concepts, new identities, new practices. I am an awakened being. I am consciousness itself. I am one with everything. But these are just new stories, new maps. They might feel more expansive than the old ones, but they are still attempts to create solid ground where there is none. The problem is that the awakening process is not finished with you yet. It will dissolve these new spiritual identities just as efficiently as it dissolved your old personal ones. And each time you try to create new ground to stand on, awakening will pull the rug out from under you again. This can go on for years. You build a new understanding of yourself. Awakening demolishes it. You find a new teacher or teaching. Awakening shows you its limitations. You think you have figured out how to be spiritual. Awakening reveals the absurdity of trying to be anything at all. It is like being in a cosmic game of whack-a-mole, where every concept you pop up gets immediately whacked down. This is why so many people either go slightly mad during awakening or retreat back into their old stories as quickly as possible. They cannot stand the groundlessness that is actually the most natural state of being. Now, here is where things get really interesting, and also where most people take a wrong turn that leads them away from genuine awakening rather than toward it. When your old identity starts crumbling, you naturally look around for something to replace it with. And what do you find? An entire spiritual marketplace ready to sell you a new and improved version of yourself. You can become a meditator, a yogi, a seeker of enlightenment. You can collect spiritual experiences like stamps in an album. You can learn to speak in mystical language and wear flowing clothes and eat only organic vegetables. You can join communities of like-minded souls who will validate your new spiritual identity and help you feel special and evolved. This spiritual shopping spree can be tremendous fun. It feels like you are growing and expanding and becoming someone more interesting than your old, ordinary self. But what is actually happening is that you are rebuilding the prison of separate selfhood with more attractive materials. You are simply trading a mundane story for a spiritual story, but you are still living in a story. The spiritual identity can be even more seductive than the ordinary one, because it promises to be the final identity, the one that will make you permanently happy and wise. It offers to solve the fundamental problem of being human. But here is the secret that the spiritual marketplace does not want you to discover. The fundamental problem of being human is not actually a problem that needs solving. You see, the spiritual ego is far more subtle and persistent than the ordinary ego. The ordinary ego knows it is limited and flawed, but the spiritual ego believes it is unlimited and pure. It has found God, realized truth, achieved enlightenment, and this makes it much harder to see through, because it wraps itself in the language of transcendence while remaining...
Now, most people don't even know about that. Y'all talk about the ego, the regular ego. There is a spiritual ego too. Oh yeah. And that motherfucker is more gruesome, more deadlier than the regular ego that we try to suppress. So for those that feel like that they suppress that regular ego, we got to deal with the spiritual one also. That's the one we don't talk about. That's the one you probably haven't even faced yet. Just when you thought you got rid of the ego, here come the other one. Here come the other one. You already know what it is. What up, though, Tony Mac? Return to the back, yeah. Return to the back. Oh. Shouts out to Tony Mac, man. That's a comedian right here. As a matter of fact, let's get you promoted. You listen to Alan Watts. Chilling.
Fundamentally the same old game of being a separate somebody. Most people get so caught up in becoming spiritual that they never actually become free. They spend years or decades perfecting their spiritual persona, collecting insights and experiences and practices, all while...
Yeah. And I met those type of people too. The ones that is just spiritual this, spiritual that. It's like, yo. Everything that come out their mouth is like, it's like a fucking spiritual quote. It's like regurgitation of some shit that they read, but it ain't shit that they read. They regurgitating some spiritual shit that they have within themselves. But it's every time they fucking speak, every time they write down a comment or a text, like, oh, okay. It's like how can I put it? Y'all know Don't Be a Menace, right? Y'all remember the pro-black motherfucker? It's that, but in spiritual context. Yeah. You gotta stop using the word nigga. That shit, but in spiritual context. For sure. I finally knew how to do this unless they, you know, I finally recognized that you can click on a nigga name and give them a ranch and shit. I was like, all right, bet it up. And plus, like, Tony Mac, you cool. You know what I'm saying? You've been fucking with this channel for a minute. You know, I gotta hook you up. Tommy Sotomayor is back on YouTube. What? You was on his panel last night? What? I know they brought him back, man, but they brought that nigga back from the shadow realm that was lower than mine. I'm like, I know I'm in the shadow realm because I'm shadow banned like to oblivion, but that nigga was like, he was in another layer of the shadow realm that was under mine. I don't know how that nigga popped back up, but shit, it's money. money. Change his platform up a little bit. Stop talking about all these bitches, you know, like so down to talk about the hoes and the community, and then you know, you just switch it up, go on platforms and debate people, and get your motherfucking get your shit back up. I think that's what he did. You know, yeah, bro. Yeah, he looks out for the smaller job. I remember when I first seen Tommy Sotomayor, man. It was like it was like he was just talking about the thought pockets in the community and shit. I was like, well, she remember when I first caught him. I caught him on Facebook, and then I followed him over there on YouTube, and I was like, this motherfucker is crazy. And then like he used to break out into a song and shit. I'm like, oh, this nigga break out into parody shit like I do too. You know, I thought that shit was funny. And then he said some shit, got his ass kicked off. I think he came back. He fought a bitch on a motherfucking Fresh and Fit or some shit like that. He's like, hit me again, you nasty bitch. Hit me again, you nasty bitch. Shit, wild, son. I was like, oh shit. She blew that nigga shit out though. I was like, oh shit. Y'all gonna let this shit go down like that? Yeah, I know the old eyes used to be hilarious. I know, man. This shit used to be hilarious. But let me get back to this. This is Alan Watts. You know, this is the last video. But first one was about like you know, like unlocking your inner self and separating loneliness from loneliness. That was the first video. And, you know, like in that video, it was like, you know, you're like alone, you'll be like all depressed, but loneliness is like you are alone, but you're getting in tune like with yourself. So like you're not really alone, you're trying to unlock yourself. So like he was separating aloneness from aloneness. And the second video was about, you know, just finding someone that's just like you when it comes to the love shit, and don't really search for love. And if you ever do feel the love, it's really within yourself because you're already whole. Don't walk around like you incomplete because you're already complete once you find yourself. So the goal is to find someone that is complete so y'all both can share, you know, with each other and y'all peace and whatnot. And this video was about 97% of people won't wake the fuck up. And it's talking about like most people are afraid to like go into that oneness with self, so they retreat back into their old self. But it say, yep, most people won't survive their spiritual awakening because they are truly afraid.
All while the real transformation that awakening offers remains out of reach. Because real awakening is not about becoming somebody new. It is about recognizing that you were never anybody in the first place. There is something wonderfully human about our need to find someone who has figured it all out. When your world is falling apart and nothing makes sense anymore, meeting someone who radiates certainty and wisdom feels like finding an oasis in the desert. Finally, someone who can show you the way home. This is how most people stumble into what I call the guru trap. They meet a teacher, or read a book, or attend a retreat, and suddenly everything clicks. The teacher's words resonate with something deep inside. Their presence feels like coming home. Their teachings offer a map through the chaos of awakening, and so you become a follower. Now, there is nothing inherently wrong with learning from someone who has walked the path before you. But notice what happens in your mind when you find your teacher.
Fanatic Sportsbook Fair Play, explained by Libby Dunn. Eating
fucking ad.
the turkey leg.
Our Fair Play insurance now protects your
You immediately recreate the same relationship pattern that got you into trouble in the first place. You make them the knower and yourself the seeker. They have what you want, and your job is to get it from them. This dynamic feels spiritual and humble, but it is actually a continuation of the same old game. Instead of being a separate self in relationship to the world, you are now a separate seeker in relationship to enlightenment. Instead of trying to improve your ordinary life, you are trying to achieve a spiritual life. The fundamental structure of separation remains intact. The most dangerous part of the guru trap is not that teachers might be fraudulent or manipulative, though some certainly are. The most dangerous part is that even genuine teachers can become obstacles to your awakening if you relate to them as authorities who possess what you lack. Because here is what no guru can give you.
Yeah. It's like when you, how can I put it? What's a great example? What's a great example? The great example was the movie called The Last Dragon. Who remember The Last Dragon? Bruce Leroy. When he had to realize who the real master was. Because he devoted his life to his master, but when he found out the truth, he got that golden glow. He did. He put all his faith in his master, but he realized who the master really truly was. You know what I'm saying? Who's the master? You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of movies that do that. It's like the student motherfucker devote his life to the master, and the master tells him you got to go on a journey to find the secret power or whatever, to find out who the whatever journey that we all seen growing up. And then by the end of the motherfucking movie, he realized he's the one with the true power. He's the master. He's the chosen one type shit. And then he whoops the bad guy ass and the movie's over. That's all this is. I just needed to find some better examples. You know what I'm saying? But The Last Dragon is the greatest shit ever. Yep, it was you all along. Yep. Salute the branches. Our favorite, he was talking about LSD.
The recognition of what you already are. They can point toward it, describe it, create conditions where you might notice it. But the actual seeing has to happen in you, as you, by the deepest intelligence of your own being.
Exactly. When that nigga Bruce Leroy was getting his ass beat. Who's the master? Nigga I am, bitch. Wah! What's Bruce Lee's favorite drink? Come on, everybody know this. What's Bruce Lee's favorite drink? Water! Yeah, that's funny.
No one else can have your awakening for you. Yet most people spend years trying to get their teacher to do exactly that. They want to be awakened by someone else rather than awaken as themselves. They want to be saved rather than realize they were never actually in danger. And
exactly.
The teacher, no matter how wise, cannot give them what they think they want without preventing them from discovering what they actually are. Have you ever noticed how spiritual people love to talk about their experiences? The visions, the bliss states, the moments of cosmic consciousness, the encounters with divine beings. It is like a spiritual version of showing vacation slides. And here is where I dissolved into pure light.
And that's why, I talk about my spiritual experiences, I try to scatter it out maybe once a blue moon or whatever. Try not to boast about it unless it comes up, unless I'm talking about spiritual experiences or something, that's the only time I bring it up. But I have a lot of spiritual experiences, but it's, try to keep it to myself, unless I'm in the context of bringing it up. When it comes to talking about power and, protection and you unlocking yourself or not, sometimes I bring it up. But, I already showed it. A couple times. Apartment building caught on fire. my shit the only one still standing, you know, spiritual experience, my power, who the man, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? My power fucking works. But, you know, I don't talk about it all the time.
And this is when I realized I was one with everything. These experiences can be genuinely transformative and beautiful. I'm not suggesting they are meaningless or that you should ignore them. But watch what happens when you start collecting spiritual experiences like trophies. You begin to evaluate your spiritual progress based on how many extraordinary states you have accessed.
Right. And I'm glad that the extraordinary states was like less than 10. You know what I'm saying? Most people get instant downloads, instant downloads. I'm talking about like instant connections with the, you know, with whatever shit, you know, that they connected with the, you know, within self or whatever. You know, they can automatically just like go into these states of consciousness. I find it to be amazing. But I'm glad that my experiences were, let's just say, branched out. You know what I'm saying? But like it's cataloged, but it's branched out. And I'm glad it's like that. You know what I'm saying? Because most motherfuckers go fucking crazy. Like real shit. Most motherfuckers go crazy. The other motherfuckers go back to sleep. And the ones like me, just trying to maintain balance, just catalog the experience and don't let it overwhelm me. Just keep on living my life. I didn't get physically harmed. I'm good. You know.
No visions lately? You must be doing something wrong. No bliss states? Better try a different practice. This turns awakening into a kind of spiritual materialism. Instead of accumulating money or possessions, you accumulate peak experiences.
Yeah. And at that moment, I remember I'd probably say the first month or two when I first got my experiences, I wanted the more. It was like I was chasing a fucking spiritual fucking dragon. It was now. I swear to God, this shit's better than fucking weed. You know what I'm saying? Just chasing the spiritual high, trying to gain that shit back, and realize it ain't gonna happen unless, you know, unless it happens. You know what I'm saying? And then once I got out of that mode of just, you know, I would just wait for it to happen. You know, I'm just like, wait, I'm not gonna rush it. I'm not gonna do it. You know, I'm not gonna, force the experience because I know the experience is gonna come. So it's just like I just stayed in my peace, stayed in my zen. And there's a lot of moments during your spiritual journey where you feel like nothing is working. I'm talking about you still doing your routine and just like nothing happening. You just everything feels the same. And I always thought it was something wrong, but it wasn't. When like nothing is happening, that means you just evolved. So like the same shit you used to do, you might have to, just probably do something else, or just kick back and just utilize what you have learned and what you have accumulated, make your spiritual armor or whatever, and just like live your life. It's probably, your journey is over when it comes to that chapter in your life. It's time to move on now, and it's time to utilize what you learn and apply it to your life.
You're trying to impress people with your car or house. You try to impress them with your mystical adventures. The ego simply relocates to higher ground, but it is still the same.
Now, mind you.
Old ego.
This fucking motherfucking ad, man. They didn't even wait 5 fucking minutes.
FanDuel Casino has rewarding rewards for all players starting day 1.
They didn't even wait 5 motherfucking minutes. Like it wasn't even 5 minutes for that last ad went off. But
collecting is that it keeps you focused on what is temporary and changing rather than what is always.
I just wanted to play it.
Instead of trying to impress people with your car or house, You try to impress them with your mystical adventures. The ego simply relocates to higher ground, but it is still the same old ego. The real trap of experience collecting.
Now, first, it was a spiritual ego. You better motherfucker quit playing Alan Watts. Just got done talking about it was two egos, nigga. This is why you grab your truth and you keep it rolling. The motherfucker talk long enough, they motherfucker say some double speak shit. I'm like, nah. The ego with the high ground, nah, nigga. You got two egos. Which one is it, Alan? But like anyway, we all know the spiritual ego. We all know the regular ego and the spiritual ego. For those that don't know, you got two egos. You know, this is the spiritual ego of the gurus and the masters and those those so-called teachers and shit. Those master teachers and shit. You know, the spiritual ego. But at the end of the day, if you want to go back to what Alan Watts said, the ego went the higher ground, then you could say your ego, if it's unchecked, it could transform to the spiritual ego. It was like, oh my God, transformation from within. This is why you got to motherfucker do the inner work and shadow work. Can you kill your ego? No. You probably can. You know, but shit, it might take forever. It might take forever, but shit, it is what it is. If these motherfuckers can go retreat, then you better motherfucking go find that motherfucker, hunt his ass motherfucking down. Shouts out to Nathan. What up, though? You listen to Alan Watts. Be like halfway finished. It's like 14 minutes. It's a 25-minute video.
Is that it keeps you focused on what is temporary and changing rather than what is always already here. Spiritual experiences come and go like weather patterns. They are movements within consciousness, not consciousness itself. But when you become fascinated by the movements, you miss the stillness in which they appear. It is like being so interested in the waves that you forget about the ocean. The waves are beautiful and ever-changing.
Right.
But
it's like a finger pointing to the moon. Don't focus on the finger because you will miss all that heavenly glory.
they are not separate from the ocean. They are temporary shapes that the ocean takes. In the same way, all your spiritual experiences are temporary shapes that consciousness takes. They are not more spiritual than ordinary consciousness. They are just more dramatic. Most people chase these dramatic states because they seem to prove that awakening is real and happening.
Yes. And it's like when it happened, yes, it feels like real. I'm like real shit. And when I first had the experience, I'm like, nigga, this shit better than Jesus. Real shit. Because after I left Christianity in 2006, went on my spiritual path in 2009, had my spiritual experiences around 2014 or 2015. I think 2015. I was like, oh yeah, this is, I'm glad I left. I'm glad I've gone because like this shit works. Motherfucking apartment building burned up, and my crib is the only one standing. Oh yeah, fuck Jesus. Nigga, I'm the shit. I'm the shit. You know what I'm saying? And it proved that my spiritual power was real. But that moment right there was just enough for me to know that, one, I'm the shit. Two, I know for a fact wherever I go, if I speak an affirmation, I'm protected. If I'm with a beautiful woman, our household is fully protected from any fucking danger. 3, if I was to put my energy towards whatever I want, it is getting done. For my apartment, all I wanted was peace and protection. I spoke that in every room. But what if I was on some destructive shit? What if I was on some, let me focus this on getting money. I wasn't thinking about money at the time because I was already hustling and working and stacking. So like, I just need peace and protection to make sure my shit's straight. You feel me? And that experience right there is one of the greatest experiences of my life. It's going to be a highlight of my life, you know.
But awakening is not an experience that you have. Awakening is what you are. It does not come and go because it never left. It is not a special state because it is present in all states. It is not something you achieve because you are already it. When you stop trying to collect spiritual experiences and start resting as the awareness in which all experiences arise, something much more ordinary and much more extraordinary becomes available. The simple fact of being aware right here, right now, without any need for it to be special or different than it is. Now we come to the part that most spiritual teachers prefer not to mention in their brochures.
And this is why I say infinite consciousness, infinite awareness. You feel me? You're already there, you know, you're already there.
There is a phase in every genuine awakening process that feels like everything is going terribly wrong. Your spiritual practices stop working. Your insights feel meaningless. Your teacher seems like a fraud. God appears to have left the building.
Now, those first two things, like you seem like nothing is working, is just like, nope, you cool, just sit there. I ain't dealt with the spiritual teacher shit because I'm not a person that follows motherfucking teachers. I listen to a lot of people and I grab a lot of truth. You know what I'm saying? But nah, I can't put my faith in no just like following a motherfucker like that. Not no spiritual shit, you know, because I know the spiritual shit is about the within. So it's like, you know, if you follow somebody, how you gonna look within if you're following somebody. So it is what it is. I just grab my truth from everybody I listen to and I apply it to my life and keep it rolling.
And you are alone in a darkness that feels deeper than anything you experienced before you started this journey. This is what mystics have traditionally called the dark night.
1 spoonful of honey with cinnamon before
Jesus
bed
fucking
equals
shit.
0 memory collapse. The secret, the billion-dollar industry
How about give
Night
me
of
a
the soul.
billion, bitch?
And it is not optional. It is not a
Hold on,
that feels deeper than anything you experienced before you started this journey. This is what mystics have traditionally called the dark night of the soul. And it is not optional. It is not a sign that you are doing something wrong or that you should try harder or find a better technique. It is actually a sign that the awakening process is working exactly as it should. But most people do not understand this, and so they panic. What is actually happening in the dark night is that your last attachments to being a spiritual seeker are being burned away. All the subtle ways you were still trying to be somebody, even a spiritual somebody, are being exposed and dissolved. The ego's final hiding places in spiritual concepts and experiences are being rooted out. This feels like dying because, in a very real sense, it is. But it is not the death of what you actually are. It is the death of what you thought you were, including what you thought you were spiritually. It is the death of the one who was seeking, the one who was practicing, the one who was trying to get somewhere or become something. The dark night strips away everything that is not essential, everything that is not actually you. It is like a forest fire that burns away all the undergrowth so that the strong trees can flourish. But when you are in the middle of it, all you can see is smoke and flames. You cannot see that something much more authentic is being revealed. Most people cannot tolerate this level of stripping away. They either abandon their spiritual journey entirely and return to their old life, or they jump to a new teacher or practice, hoping to escape the darkness. But the dark night will follow them wherever they go until they stop running from it. Because the dark night is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens as you.
And that's why I say, after I destroyed the dark night of the soul, I picked up the armor and put it on. Getting ready for my next battle against the motherfucker again. You feel me? I look at it as an entity that I fight within, you know, like that's just me. But yeah, everybody has their personal battle with the dark night of the soul. Some people feel it as energy. Some people feel it as an emotion or whatever. I don't know. But me, I see that motherfucker as a entity, armor, and a blade, and I'm fighting. You know what I'm saying? The dark night of the soul is a motherfucker. But that's not the motherfucker that's a real problem anymore. The real problem, the real bitch. Yes, I call her a bitch because it's an entity that I guess something in my mind, you know what I'm saying? It's all me. Call me crazy, but can't talk about me. I know what makes you cheer. But anyway, but melancholy. Melancholy is an entity that I fight. At least now, since mother passed last year, melancholy is a real bitch. But thanks to meditation and thanks to going live, thanks to working on music, I'm good. And always catching that emotion and embrace it. Don't try to fight it. Just let it go through your body and let it leave on its own. Not trying to fight it. Once you just be at peace, take a deep breath, you'll be good. Just let the emotion go through, because if anybody don't know what melancholy is, go look it up. But nigga, real shit, that's a motherfucker. Because it happens out the clear blue. It could be in the middle of you walking to a store, driving to a gas station, and it just happens. So you got to really truly catch that emotion and try to be careful and not, let it ruin your fucking day. So this is why I try to keep myself doing shit, stay meditated, stay working on music, stay doing this podcast, stay taking my notes, talking to like-minded people like y'all. Much love to my baby Crystal. Hey, baby. You know what I'm saying? And, and listen to Alan Watts, Earl Nightingale, Brother Panic, Bobby Hemming, you know what I'm saying? To try to find some other people to listen to, that's new, you know what I'm saying? Men and women, you know what I'm saying? That's on the spiritual path. That's, just sharing their journey, giving their little thoughts and insight, little advice or whatever. I try to keep my mind cool, because the dark night of the soul is a motherfucker, but also melancholy, I know everybody say that. I usually be like, man, nigga, don't be sorry. The man bitch was a crackhead, ruined my life. And I bust out laughing. And they be looking at me like, God damn, that's cold. I'm like, yo, but it's true. But thanks anyway, though. Thanks. But that bitch was a crackhead that ruined my life, nigga. Even at the end of her life, she chose to throw me under the fucking bus. I'm like, ain't that a bitch? But it was like, you only get one mom. I was like, nope, I got like 3 other surrogates. But you gotta laugh. You gotta fucking laugh. You gotta laugh at it.
It is your own deepest intelligence burning away everything that is false so that what is true can be recognized. Fighting it is like a snake trying to avoid shedding its skin. The old has to die for the new to be born. Here is something that might surprise you about genuine awakening. There is no path to it. Oh, there are thousands of paths, millions of techniques, countless teachers and teachings and traditions. But awakening itself is not at the end of any path, because it is not somewhere you can go. It is what you already are. This is perhaps the most difficult thing for the seeking mind to understand.
It's just like once you realize that you are the master, it's just wonderful. But it's crazy that many people will go all their life not knowing that they are the one, not knowing that they are Neo or Trinity. Trinity? You know what I'm saying? It's almost sad. I almost pity the fool, but You got to let them be, you know. I remember all my stages. I remember all these stages. I'm talking about like even before the spiritual path. I remember the fucking pro-black stage. Like, come on, brothers, we got to work together and do all this shit. And like niggas looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, all right, nigga, y'all gonna wish. They're gonna wish we united, motherfucker. Then spiritual shit. I even motherfucker remember all the Christian days. It's like watching my journey. You know, I could be like, shit. I was already awakened. I was already that guy, so to say, you know. But also see myself knowing that I got to put on a costume and be around a whole bunch of people. This shit was wild. When you see the stage for what it is, when you pull back the iron curtain and see the game for what it is, or when you realize that you are the master, man, the whole world looks different now. I don't see the world the same as I used to. You know, I see the world as fucked as it's supposed to be, but I also see the world as beautiful as it needs to be. It's a crazy mix in my mind, but this world can be better. But we just got people in place that don't want it to be better. It was like motherfucking, it was just like motherfucking when Alfred was talking to Bruce Wayne in that Batman movie. It's just like some people just want to see the world burn, you know? And like these evil motherfuckers is running shit. But people trip on me for wanting to blow up the planet. I'm like, man, nigga, I'm just trying to motherfucking put everybody out their misery because there's nobody want to fight. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers like, you overreacting, calm down. All right, nigga, get in my way if you want to when I'm start blasting at the cops. All right. Because I remember my old mind frame. It was like, if anybody don't want to fight, the government is a pussy. Like, fuck it. Get in my way if y'all want to. Until I realized compassion and motherfucking diplomacy and shit. You know? So I can't knock people's peaceful solutions. So I learned to, I guess I'm going to have to work around it. Y'all going to need me regardless. If I got to put an army in every major city in every state in this country, just like black militias everywhere, y'all would just have to pay for our services. We'll be just a private military. We'll just be a private military for the people that want peaceful solutions and that don't want me to go blow up shit. Okay? But remember this, now until the end of days, when the real war start, you better choose the right side. That's all I got to say. Because we're going to be on the battlefield already. Roller coaster. What up, though? Listen to Alan Watts.
So conditioned to think in terms of progress, improvement, and destination that we assume awakening must work the same way. If I meditate enough, practice enough, study enough, surely I will eventually arrive at enlightenment.
Yep. And I thought about that too when I first started. You know what I'm saying? Trying to motherfucking chase the motherfucking dragon of spiritual motherfucking oh, what the fuck? Spiritual experiences. You know, like trying to rack them hoes up. Until I, you know, like I am the spiritual experience. you know, like I had to stop chasing the dragon and realize I am infinite consciousness, infinite awareness, driving the vehicle known as the human body. Goal is to live my life according to my own works and good deeds or whatever the fuck. You know, this is my shit. And just walk in that light.
But awakening is not a destination you can reach by traveling. It is the traveler recognizing that he was never actually separate from home. Every spiritual path, no matter how sophisticated, is based on a fundamental misunderstanding. It assumes,
and this is the real true meaning of finding yourself. When you realize that you are there, you know, you look in the mirror and say, I'm gonna go find myself. I'm like, nigga, you staring at yourself right now. Michael Jackson already gave it away. The man in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? Take a look at yourself and make a change. Michael Jackson already told us. Look within. Michael Jackson also told the government, y'all just leave me alone. So we leave me the fuck alone. But back to the spiritual shit. If you want to make a world a better place, take a look at yourself and make it change. Woo! Na 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 na. Shimon.
there is someone who needs to be fixed, improved, or transformed. It assumes there is a distance between where you are and where you need to be. But awakening reveals that the one who seems to need transformation is itself a kind of mirage. This does not mean that practices are useless. Meditation, yoga, prayer, study, these can all be valuable, but not because they create awakening. They can create conditions where the recognition of what you already are becomes more likely. They are like clearing the windows so you can see the sun that was always shining. The pathless path is simply the willingness to stop seeking and start being. It is the recognition that what you have been looking for is what is looking. The seeker and the sought are not two. There is no one to be awakened and nothing to awaken to.
You are the dream and the dream.
Everything's gonna change.
You are the fucking ads.
There is just this awareness, being aware of itself. Most people cannot make this shift because it requires giving up the very thing that seems most precious, the sense of being someone who is on a spiritual journey. Without the journey, who would you be? Without the goal of awakening, what would be the point of all your practices and insights? But this is exactly the question that points to freedom. Who are you when you are not trying to become anyone, including someone who is spiritually evolved? What remains when you stop the project of self-improvement, even spiritual self-improvement? Something funny happens to people who actually survive their spiritual awakening. After all, the cosmic consciousness and mystical experiences and profound realizations, they usually end up looking remarkably ordinary. They still have to brush their teeth and pay their taxes and deal with difficult people. They still get hungry and tired and occasionally grumpy. This ordinariness disappoints a lot of people who were expecting awakening to make them permanently blissful and wise and somehow...
Yeah, and that's the last shit motherfuckers got to get over. Soon as you become enlightened, don't think everything is going to be peaches and cream. Nope. You still got to deal with reality. You still got to deal with life. But you walk it with a sense of clarity and a new attitude. You're not walking to try to be somebody. You're already that guy or that girl. You're already who you are. You are living in a state of being. You are just going to be. And we reach that feeling many points in our life. Just that fly high, free bird, yeah. On some Leonard Skinner. I wish I had a guitar.
How above the messiness of human life, they thought enlightenment would be an escape from the human condition.
And it is not. Now, I don't know how some meditative masters can motherfucker get into a meditative state and leave their body and their body don't decompose. I forgot the name of that yogi guy. I forgot the name of that person. He's a master. But this nigga can motherfucker just leave his fucking body. Like, motherfucker, it was gone for like 20 days. Body didn't even decompose. It was gone. 20 days. But anyway, but still though, your body is still here. You may be in a state of bliss in another fucking dimension though. You know what I'm saying? but we still got to deal with the bullshit here. So just be, be you, be true, and hang around those that's like-minded like you. If you got to get away from society, so be it, because being in that environment, it depletes you of energy. So ain't nothing wrong with getting the fuck on. I know it's gonna take some bread. That's why I say we gotta put our money, manpower, and resources together, get some land, y'all. But everybody look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. But you see a whole bunch of other people doing it. They're getting the fuck out of here. But shit.
Not a deeper acceptance of it. So when awakening returns them to washing dishes and taking out the trash, they assume something has gone wrong. But this return to ordinary life is actually the completion of awakening, not a failure of it. Because true awakening does not take you out of your humanity. It reveals the sacred nature of your humanity. It does not make you special. It shows you that everything is already special, including what you thought was mundane. The enlightened person is not someone who has transcended ordinary life, but someone who has discovered the extraordinary nature of ordinary life. They see that washing dishes is no less spiritual than sitting in meditation. They know that dealing with a difficult boss can be just as awakening as having a mystical vision. Everything becomes equally sacred because nothing was ever actually separate from the sacred. This is why many awakened people become almost invisible. They are not glowing with spiritual charisma or performing miracles or gathering followers. They are simply living their lives with a kind of natural ease and presence that most people do not even notice.
Yep. I look at nature different. Go by the water. Look at the trees different. Even the grass, the sound of the birds. There's a sense of just being one with everything. Living in a state of oneness and state of being. That's how I am when I walk out. And shit, look, in spite of all the shit that you hear about me wanting to destroy everything, yeah. I still do hashtag fuck the government. But when I'm out, I try to live in a state of being. Just do me. Keep my aura strong, keep my aura tight. You know what I'm saying? My aura is the shit. That shit be glowing. You know what I'm saying? But not chasing the dragon no more feels great. You know what I'm saying? Just like learning that you are already the one. You're already the master.
They have become so ordinary that their extraordinariness is hidden in plain sight. The return to ordinary life also means giving up the identity of being someone who has had a spiritual awakening. Because even that identity, however subtle, is still a form of separation. The one who is awakened and those who are not awakened. The one who knows and those who are ignorant. These distinctions dissolve when you realize that there was never anyone to be awakened in the first place. What remains is just life living itself, consciousness knowing itself, love being itself, not as high spiritual concepts, but as the simple reality of this moment, whatever this moment happens to contain. So what does it mean to survive your spiritual awakening? It means letting everything die that was never actually alive in the first place. It means discovering that what you thought was you was really just a collection of thoughts, memories, sensations, and stories that had no more substantial reality than a rainbow. The ones who survive are those who stop trying to preserve any version of themselves, including the spiritual version. They let the seeker die, the knower die, the awakened one die. They discover what remains when all the identities have been stripped away, and what remains turns out to be much simpler and much more wonderful than anything they could have imagined. What survives is not a who but a what, not a person but a presence, not an individual consciousness but consciousness itself, recognizing its own nature in this particular pattern of experience that you call your life. And this consciousness is not yours any more than the sky belongs to the birds that fly through it. This might sound impersonal or cold, but it is actually the most intimate thing possible. Because when you stop being somebody, you become everybody. When you stop having your own private awareness, you discover that awareness was never private. When you stop defending your separate existence, you find yourself everywhere. The great secret that most people miss is that what you actually are was never born and can never die. What you actually are has no problems to solve, no growth to accomplish, no awakening to achieve. What you actually are is the very awareness in which all problems, growth, and awakening appear and disappear. Those who survive their spiritual awakening are those who recognize this and stop trying to be anything other than what they already are. They stop trying to get somewhere else and realize they were never anywhere else. They stop trying to become someone better and discover they were never anyone at all. And in this recognition, the whole desperate game of seeking comes to an end. Not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you realize there was never anyone looking for anything. There is just this eternal, ever-present awareness, playing at being you, playing at forgetting itself, playing at remembering itself, playing at seeking and finding and losing and seeking again. The game continues, but now you know it is just a game. And that makes all the difference.
And that was Alan
Cole,
Watts.
he's my miracle child. So how does your miracle child get cancer?
Fucking ad. They're like the 8th ad. But that was Alan Watts. I hope y'all enjoyed some. You know, hope y'all took whatever y'all could out of it. You know what I'm saying? About to get up out of here. It's 4:20. That means I'm about to roll up. And then probably get ready to, you know, shit. I don't know, probably lay myself down. Then get up, probably get some news. As a matter of fact, sort of some more music. Now, who knows what I'm about to do? I'm about to find out. I might work on some more music. Yeah, I think I might work on some more music. Then I'm gonna probably go to sleep. I don't know. It all depends. I already know what I want to do now. But I did want to get these messages out because I kind of wanted to do this like yesterday. But you know, I had to get my rest in. So I was like, fuck it. I was gonna just do all 3 of them today. Wait, hold on, let me see what y'all say. Said, yep, from the government, yep. Fight for yourself, that's right. Yep. Shout out to everybody that came through. And shout out to everybody that's gonna watch on the playback. Salute Tony Mac. Make sure y'all subscribe to Tony Mac. What up, though? Nathan, it's Nathan in the building. Shout out to Marcel, what's good? And Jordan, it's at 12. Yeah, what up, though? 12. What's good? Who else? Yep, I know my baby Crystal was in here. Hey, Crystal. I gotta see what you sent me. Like you sent me a message. Let me go check it out. Shouts out to everybody coming through. You know, I hope y'all got some cool information from Alan Watts. I'm gonna play Earl Nightingale like next time. You know, if I find some more good on Earl Nightingale shit. Try to find some good Bobby Hemmett shit also and some Brother Panic. But the motherfucking videos be like 7-8 hours long. I gotta find some real good clips. I gotta find some good clips and probably make a collage. Hey, love you too, baby. I was just talking about you. I'm like, baby, let me see what you sent me. Holla at you before I start doing my thing. Shouts out to everybody coming through. Crystal, let me holla at you. And I'll catch y'all in a minute. Peace.